So I will give a little bit of a prezi about this. So the Iron Claw is based. I remember I saw the trailer for this, and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting," because it's based around a wrestling family called the Von Erich family, who were mainly active in the 80s. So like in the 80s and everything like that. And I remember watching them on the TV. I remember watching the Von Erich family. There were three of them. They were brothers. They were a tag team. One of them fought barefoot and usually wore like yellow pants. And I was like, oh yeah, the Von Erichs. I remember this. And I remember also like when we're because obviously this was in the 80s. There was no internet. I was in Nigeria. And you started, every now and then, things started dribbling and drabbing through about, oh, this happened to, you know that one of those brothers, something bad happened to them, or this, or but you're kind of like, you take everything with a pinch of salt because you're like, yeah, it's the 80s. People made stuff up. Rumors seem to, even without the internet, rumors seem to just sort of fly around the place. And this film, The Iron Claw, is made about this family. And the fact that they're making a film about like a dramatic movie about a wrestling family should tell you that there's something there. And the way I would describe this film is there's a certain trope in literature, especially nowadays. There's black female literature, black female authors who write about African experience. There seems to be a trope. There seems to be like a trend for their books. And my wife keeps reading these books and telling me about this happens and that happens and that happens. And I've essentially termed this as a subgenre, which is bad things happen to black women. That's pretty much what it is. Bad things happen to a black African, and when she tells me, "Oh, this happened," oh, and this happened to them, and then that happened to them, and this film is like bad things happen to bad things happen to straight white men. And honestly, because what happens in this family, you have the father, Fritz von Erich, who is quite a domineering dad, he always keeps talking about the fact that he himself he was never allowed to have a world title shot in wrestling when he was a wrestler. So he has all boys. I don't know what kind of power the man has, but he doesn't have a daughter, just has boys. It just has boys, and they all go into wrestling. They're not even given a choice. They all go into wrestling. And the main brothers are played by Zac Efron, Jeremy Allen White, and Harris Dickinson. So they go into wrestling, and it's all pretty much about them trying to get their dad's approval by being in wrestling and trying to do all this stuff and working themselves really hard and getting really big and really buff and trying to do everything it is to sort of, as the dad says, get the belt back in this family. And the film sort of plays out as to what happens to them, because there's this whole thing called the curse of the Von Erichs that the film starts off talking about, like with a voiceover, somebody saying they always said my family was cursed. I never really believed them, and it follows on going as to what happens and what this curse does to the family, what the wrestling thing does to the family, what goes on with the whole thing, and it is. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that it's not a barrel of laughs.
No,
it's not fun. It's not fun, and there's times where you're going, oh come on, no way, oh come on, that. Then you finish watching the film and you go on Wikipedia and you're like, what the hell? you find that pretty much everything they tell you in the film happened. There's a scene towards the end of the film that proves to me with no shadow of a doubt that I am now a father, because it had me in bits. Even though when I went and looked at the history, I realized that they fudged some things in that scene to make it a neater story and to make it nicer and to make the point, to drive the point home better. They fudged some things, but all in all, I think that they did a really, really good and really respectful job with this film. I think it's really difficult to do a respectful job with something that's like this, because it would be so easy to do a sensationalist, oh, look at this, with this story. Sean.
You exactly hit the nail on the head. The one thing what I thought about this was they didn't. I mean, some people look at wrestling as a joke, don't they? You know what I mean? Yeah. Some people said,
yeah.
And that did not come into that at all. It was like a serious. They were really, really serious about it. It wasn't.
It's their life. It's their life. It's their business. Life, you know? It's everything. Yeah.
Normally, people say, "Oh, that was." It wasn't portrayed as like exactly
fake.
Like Tosin said. It wasn't portrayed as fake. What happened? The bit that I really felt was, obviously, there's professional wrestling and amateur wrestling. I'm assuming, Toes, that the youngest brother was going to go off to the Olympics, was a amateur wrestler. And then, yeah, but because he was going to go to the Olympics, wasn't he? And
as a discus thrower.
Oh, he was going. Oh, right. Okay. I missed that point. Then.
Yeah.
So,
But he was going to go to the Olympics, and there was a big thing about their dad. essentially Sharon, in a very early scene, their dad sits them around at a breakfast table and goes, right, we all know Kerry's my favorite, followed by Kevin, then David, then Mike. And he ranks his sons and he says, there's always a chance to go up the league ladder. That's the kind of thing he does. He ranks his son and he says, like, you can get more in my affections, essentially, if you do better in wrestling. Then you can move up in my affections. And Kerry is his favorite because he's about to go off to the Olympics in 1980s. But those of you who know your history like you do, Sharon, know that there's something happened in the
1980 Olympics. Was
1980
boycotted by the USA.
Yes, boycotted by the USA, and it's kind of like, and that's just like one of these little drips of tragedy that just hit this family and you think of this tiny thing. It's almost kind of like, what would have happened if that hadn't happened? What would have happened to this family? But anyway, Sean, I sort of interrupted you talking about what you thought about this film.
No, that's fine. I said that, but it's like you going in now. You went and you looked at the brothers. Well, I wasn't aware, I wasn't aware of these brothers and that because I was never really. But it was quite interesting. I went and actually looked at the boycott of the Olympic Games, of what countries boycotted and what countries, and then obviously with the 84
games were boycotted, weren't they?
Yeah, the 84 in Los Angeles, same thing. The Russians and some of the Eastern Bloc. But yeah, I mean, the thing is with this film, I agree. It was like, the poor people. And I thought the father played the part really, really well.
Holt McClanahan.
He wanted to live. He wanted to live what he didn't achieve. He wanted
to live through his sons. Yeah,
through his sons. So, I mean, I liked it. I thought it was really, really well done. And I don't know. I'm not so sure about Zac Efron's acting. I don't know if I could quite.
The thing is, I really liked Zac Efron in this.
Yeah.
I really liked him. I mean, he's kind of like the way the character is portrayed is kind of like he's almost kind of like the most boring brother.
Yeah, boring. Yeah,
he's like the most boring brother, and he's kind of like almost like the linchpin. Where stuff happens around him, and it's not until later on in the film that he actually starts. You actually get a scene where you feel like he's actually telling you what he thinks, because throughout the rest of the film, he's hardly doing it. He's hardly doing anything. And it also has one thing I wanted to say about the women in the film. So it's
got Lily James in it, hasn't it?
It's got Lily James and it's got Maura Tierney in it, and they play, well, essentially the women. They are partners of, well, one of them of the father, one of them of one of the brothers. And I feel like it could be accused of saying that they don't have much to do, and sure enough, their parts are small, but I still feel like they're really key. I feel like the women in the film are key, and for one of them, this is my way out. This is out of this goldfish bowl. This is my another pair of eyes. And I think like Maura Tierney has some scenes in this that without her and without her doing, the story doesn't land as well. So even though they don't have as much time on screen, I think that it's because not every story can be focused on absolutely everybody. This is a story that's mainly based on male machismo and what that does to you and everything like that. I still thought that they were really good, and I still thought that they had a space in the film, and I thought that I thought was also a very, very difficult balancing act. And I know everybody every year has their films that if they could have voted for awards, they would have voted for. And I know I haven't seen that many in cinema this year, but this film, I would have been voted for awards, because I think that what they achieve in this film is amazing. I think it is great. I think it's a beautiful film. It's a sad film, but I mean, it's so respectful.
How accessible would you say it was? Would you say it was accessible for someone like me who knows nothing about wrestling, has no interest in it?
100%.
And then I saw the trailer, I was like, nah, it's not for me.
I know. I remember you saying that, Sharon, that you wouldn't. You said no. I'm probably not going to give that one. But this is surprising, and it's not what I thought it was going to be either.
Yeah,
it's not what I thought it was going to be. It really wasn't. I thought I was going to be a sensationalist from the trailer, but it's not at all.
There's sports films, aren't there? And there's like sports films, and then there's sport films. Where the sport is like a device to tell a story. I think if it's a device, it's fine, isn't it? Because it's it's a way in. But if it is the whole story, then it's like, I'm not interested in wrestling.
I quite like the family scenes when they played football as well. I quite like those.
I don't think this film is a sports film.
It's not a sports film. No, I wouldn't say it's a sports film.
I would not say it's a sports film. I mean, I think it's really accessible, and like what Sean says, like the scenes that hit the home the hardest sometimes are just the family scenes, where they're like, there's the scene that I was talking about that sort of like made me go, okay, yeah, I'm definitely a dad. Towards the end of the film, it's a family scene, and it's like, and those are the ones that hit home the hardest. You might need to take a box of tissues with you, though. Honestly, you might need to take a box of tissues. I feel like I knew that bad things happened, and I went in expecting them, but I still felt like it wasn't totally like just this melancholic, depressing thing. But there is, you might want to take a box of tissues with you. But I really, really enjoyed it. I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Now, for me,
wow.
This was a real surprise for me. Real surprise. I thought it was really, really good. Nothing what I expected. Totally different. And I think I agree with a lot of things that Tosin said. But what I liked about it is the wrestling was portrayed as it wasn't. Do you know what I mean? We watched the WWF and it's like all the talking and all that, and it's just like, yeah, come on, that's not going to happen. It wasn't portrayed like that at all. It was portrayed, right, this is a serious thing. Yes. You know, it's not sensational. It's not. Yes. We're going to get, we're still going to get hurt and stuff. And I really liked that in that movie. So I'm going to go with Toes on this.
Yep. Yeah, I think 4 out of 5. I mean, the truth is, it might get a 5. This is the kind of film that I feel like Holly might give a 5. But I feel like there's the films I give a 5 are films that I come out of the cinema going,
wow, yeah, there has to be.
I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah. That's it. I agree. That's the 5 thing. You know, it's like you can't really dish out 5s. I think from our criteria, it has to be.
Yeah, like
sort of
for me,
super exceptional.
I remember 2 films that I've seen that I've thought I wouldn't change anything. These films are absolutely perfect. Inside Out and Little Miss Sunshine. I remember watching them and straight away going, yes. Oh my, and just having that feeling of yes, this is what film was made for. This is not quite there, so it's going to be a 4 out of 5. Especially when I went and looked at some of the fudges that they did, because to make it fit into a film format, which I guess is okay. But anyway, now.